Today, the Inquisition is divided into a series of organizations known as Ordos. Each Ordo is responsible for assessing and combating a threat to humanity. There are 3 Ordos Majoris devoted to combating threats to the Imperium from within, without, and beyond. First, we have the Ordo Malleus, known as the Demon Hunters or the Order of the Hammer. The Ordo Malleus are sworn to defend the very soul of mankind, concentrating on the defeat of those enemies of humanity that dwell in the warp, the so-called enemy beyond. They primarily concern themselves with destroying demons and other servants of chaos. They have pledged their every waking hour to the discovery and scourging of such creatures wherever they can be found. Their members are often battle-hardened warriors, for demons cannot be cast out through the subtleties of espionage or trickery. Only the blessed blade and the purified flame will serve. However, knowledge is their chief weapon. Agents of the Ordo Malleus are scholars of demonic lore and know how to shackle and bind warp spawn. Militarily, the Ordo Malleus is the most formidable of the Inquisition's branches, for its agents can call upon the services of their chamber militant, the Grey Knights, to aid them in their struggles. The Grey Knights are Space Marines, designated Chapter 666. Unlike the other chapters of the Adeptus Astartes, who are called upon to fight any and all threats to the Imperium, the Grey Knights are dedicated to slaying demons and stand ever ready to assist the Ordo Malleus in their long war against chaos. Next up we have the Ordo Xenos, also known as the Alien Hunters or the Order of the Aliens. The Ordo Xenos are dedicated to investigating, cataloging, and defeating the Xenos threat, the enemy without. They actively seek out and eliminate alien influence and corruption within the Imperium. Their agents are typically the most eccentric of their kind, for they spend years, even decades, traveling and living in non-human space, learning everything they can that will facilitate the exploitation or elimination of the races they encounter. As a result, many of their inquisitors have strong ties with rogue traders, with whom they share many goals, and often travel with retinues of alien mercenaries or travelers. Most speak dozens of non-human languages and have acquaintances and informants far beyond the Imperium's boundaries. Despite this, there is more blood on the hands of the Ordo Xenos than any other branch of the Inquisition. Just as the Ordo Malleus can call upon the Grey Knights, so too can the Ordo Xenos call upon the services of their own chamber militant, the Death Watch. Formed long ago by accord between a conclave of Inquisitor lords and an esteemed assemblage of Space Marine chapter masters, the Death Watch is composed entirely of veteran Space Marines, seconded from the greatest chapters in the galaxy. They are trained and equipped to repel the alien tide that threatens to overwhelm humanity, and are an invaluable tool for any Inquisitor seeking to vanquish the Xenos threat. And the final Ordo Majoris, the Ordo Hereticus. This order is also known as the Witch Hunters or the Order of the Heretics. The Ordo Hereticus is the scourge of traitors, witches, mutants, rogue psychers, and heretics. The interests of its members are aligned towards the combating of threats broadly classified as arising from within the great bulk of humanity, the so-called enemy within. The witch hunters of the Ordo Hereticus are sinister, feared individuals. Their skin is pale from long days spent in the excruciating chambers of Inquisition fortresses or poring over ancient texts that speak of the heretic and his machinations. The arrival of an Ordo Hereticus Inquisitor is met with as much trepidation as awe, since none know where their gimlet gaze may land and upon whom their suspicions might fall. In addition to monitoring the ecclesiarchy, ensuring that wars of faith do not exceed their mandate or that its many cardinals do not amass more power than is deemed appropriate, the Ordo Hereticus keeps a close eye on many other imperial organizations: the Adeptus Arbites, the Adeptus Astartes, the Adepta Sororitas, and also fellow members of the Inquisition. They monitor doctrinal and physical purity, and no one is beyond their jurisdiction. This order can also call upon their own chamber militant like all the others. The Sisters of Battle, the all-female warrior branch of the Adepta Sororitas. It should also be mentioned that there are some freelance inquisitors at large who are not part of one specific branch of the Inquisition. There are also several minor ordos that have more specific purposes than those I just mentioned. These are called the Ordos Minoris. Whilst the three great Ordos of the Ordo Majoris are perhaps the best known and established, there are a number of smaller Ordos charged with guardianship of particular aspects of the Imperium. Whilst in theory, these smaller Ordos are of equal rank and power to the Ordo Hereticus, Ordo Xenos, and Ordo Malleus, in practice, they seldom control as many resources as these great organizations. These minor Ordos are significantly smaller than the main three, and are often formed to combat specific, rather than broad, threats to the Imperium. Some police the ranks of assassin death cults, while others tend the workings of the Black Ships. Rumors persist of Inquisition Ordos which watched the officers of the Astrum Militarum and Navis Imperialis, and others whose sole task is to purge the ranks of the Inquisition itself. Most of these Ordos Minoris are largely unknown, even to other members of the Inquisition. Many are little more than cabals of Inquisitors allied against a common threat in a specific region of the galaxy, while others are in essence specialized sub-Ordos of the Ordos Majoris. And still other, nigh unknown Ordos might interest themselves in matters so esoteric or specialized that they are entirely unknown to anyone. I will now name some of the most notable of the Ordos Minoris. The Ordo Kronos. This mysterious and incredibly obscure ordo was formed to investigate the potential ramifications of time travel through the warp, particularly the potential for deliberate manipulation of this phenomenon. This now defunct ordo disappeared under mysterious circumstances, and their eventual return remains the subject of legend amongst the few who know they ever existed. Then the Ordo Hydra. This order was an extremist offshoot of the secret society known as the Illuminati that was dedicated to the use of certain extreme measures to destroy the existence of chaos in the universe once and for all. It was composed mainly, but not entirely, of Illuminati who are also Inquisitors, some of whom occupied extremely high ranks within the Inquisition. The Ordo Hydra is often cited as an Ordo Minoris. However, this order was a group who used a particular tool rather than a group who combated a specific threat, and so, despite their name, they were perhaps better described as an inquisitorial cabal. They were defeated by the actions of the Inquisitor Jack Draco, who prevented them from unleashing a plot to unite all of humanity as a single hive mind. This was intended to provide it with the ability to destroy the Chaos Gods once and for all, but was more likely to result in the birth of a fifth major Chaos God who would render the human species extinct and guarantee the final victory of chaos. Then we have the Ordo Machinum, also known as the Judicators of the Forge. The Ordo Machinum scrutinizes the Adeptus Mechanicus. Specifically, they are concerned with the reintegration of recovered STC variants into the Imperium's armies and the rare adaptations of alien technologies into established Mechanicus protocols. Inquisitors of this order often accompany Adeptus Mechanicus techno-archaeological teams to distant worlds, the better to see for themselves exactly what has been recovered. They often work in concert with the Ordo Xenos, especially when the world in question has been under alien control, or there is any suggestion of non-human origin for the technology that was recovered. Next, the Ordo Militum. This ordo has the duty of monitoring the Imperium's military bodies, such as the Astra Militarum, the Navis Imperialis, the Officio Prefectus, the Militarum Tempestus, the sanctioned psychers of the Adeptus Astra Telepathica, the Adeptus Astartes, and, together with the Ordo Hereticus, the Adeptus Auroritas. Then, the Ordo Obsoletus. This order's task is to monitor and validate unexplained phenomena and miracles said to have occurred across the Imperium. Since the Dark Gods, especially Tzeentch, are not above sacrificing whole hosts of their mortal servants to ensure that a plot comes to fruition, it is the duty of the Ordo Obsoletus to investigate whether a miracle is a genuine manifestation of the Emperor's will, or yet another convoluted xenos or chaos deception. Events such as the appearance of the Legion of the Damned and the reappearance of Lord Varlak after his incineration on Korsk II, then again on Necromunda, and a third time on Vanor 21 are their area of expertise. This order is often cited as being an Ordo Minoris, but this is merely conjecture. It is possible that their order is not, strictly speaking, an ordo at all, but a regional inquisitorial conclave that refers to itself as an ordo. Then we have the Ordo Originatus. This ordo is dedicated to unraveling 10 Terran millennia of myths, exaggerations, and lies within the records of the Imperium's history. This is a difficult task, raised to impossibility due to the opposing work of the Ordo Redactus, though their work has recently been made easier by the establishment of the Corps of Historiators called the Logos Historica Verita, who have been trained by the resurrected Primarch and Imperial Regent Robert Gilliman in the Era Indomitus to seek out the truth of humanity's history since the Horus Heresy. Then, of course, the Ordo Redactus. This ordo focuses their efforts into deliberately obscuring the past and redacting any records whose knowledge they fear might lead to the corruption of the minds of weak men and women. They also do so lest the enemies of mankind discover some advantage through knowledge of the Inquisition's beginnings. Their inquisitors have discovered that their job has been made a great deal harder by Robert Guillermin, because his dedication to the truth and uncovering an accurate chronology of mankind's past since the end of the Horus Heresy is deeply disturbing, even frightening to the Ordo Redactus, and their agents have moved to quietly oppose the Ordo Originatus and the Logos Historica Verita wherever they can do so without tipping their hand. Then, the Ordo Scriptorum, known also as the Unsleeping Eye. The Ordo Scriptorum is one of 17 Ordos based on Terra itself, dedicated to the examination and investigation of records and communiques. This may seem a trivial, almost facile task in light of the weighty matters pursued by other branches of the Inquisition, but nothing could be further from the truth. The Imperium constantly strains under the weight of its own colossal bureaucracy, and all manner of vital billets of information are lost or misfiled through simple human error. The Ordo Scriptorum can only intercept a handful of these failures, but even one can prove the difference between the life and death of billions. Moreover, even the rumor that an inquisitor is supervising a scribe's work is enough to galvanize them to more careful practice, ensuring that fewer such errors occur in the future. Next, the Ordo Sepulturum. This ordo is one of the smallest and newest of the Ordos Minoris, formed during the 13th Black Crusade. Their focus is to understand and combat the relatively new threat presented to the Imperium by the emergence of the undead plague zombies, poxwalkers, and the Nurgle-spawned zombie plague and walking pox. Then, the Ordo Sicarius, founded by the legendary Inquisitor Jaeger in the wake of the deadly events that occurred during the Reign of Blood in the Age of Apostasy of the 36th millennium. The Ordo Sicarius is tasked with investigating, moderating, and controlling the Officio Assassinorum. Since Jaeger's reforms, no Imperial assassin may be deployed without majority approval of the High Lords of Terra. This is, of course, immensely impractical, and quite often, an Inquisitor of the Ordo Sicarius will sanction the Officio Assassinorum under the guise of an edict from Terra. While some believe this to be an abuse of their power, in a galaxy-spanning civilization, such measures are essential to maintain a level of active response required to face the myriad threats to mankind. Next, the last two, the Ordo Maledictum. This Ordo Minoris was created during the era Indomitus. Its members seek any means by which the Great Rift might be driven back or even closed altogether. And the last one, whose name is sadly unknown and lost to history, is a minor order that develops methods to limit the independence of the Adeptus Astartes. It was founded during the Horus Heresy and has since been almost forgotten. One of their assassins, named Xenothan, was encountered by the Space Wolves, and this assassin used the poison made from the first blossoms of the Mercurian swamp orchid that could temporarily paralyze space marines. It worked by disrupting and confusing the marines' genetically engineered poison-neutralizing gland, effectively turning it into a weapon against the Astartes. It is not clear whether this Ordo is an actual Ordo Minoris of the Inquisition or simply an Ordo of the Astartes themselves.